Do you love movies? So do I. What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies, inviting you to listen to The Conversation, a film podcast where passion meets perspective and opinion. From the old school to the new, I invite a guest on to discuss the movies that thrill us, challenge us, break our hearts, or even blow our minds. There's always new episodes dropping wherever you get your podcasts. So join the conversation. We don't just watch movies. We love talking about them too. The Conversation with KB Loves Movies, a part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
You need a man.
Welcome to Wake Up Heavy, my weird dad's weird podcast about weird movies.
Hello, and welcome to another special episode of Wake Up Heavy Recollections of Horror. This is a step away from horror movies for a bit, and I wanted to talk about a movie that I just recently discovered because of another podcast, 80s All Over, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned this on the last episode. And first thing I want to do, though, is apologize for my voice. I caught a cold from my daughter.
That's weird.
And took yesterday off from recording and probably should take today off, but I'm going to soldier on through because that's what I'm getting paid the big bucks for.
That doesn't sound right.
Yes, you're right, Cleo. I don't get paid anything for this, but I am soldiering on because I don't want to get too far behind on my schedule. I have this, The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane to get to, and then a Why Didn't I Rent This that I had totally forgotten about wanting to do for a while, and that will come out either before or after the season 2 premiere of Taxi Driver. And that is partly why I am doing this episode and The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane. And I'll explain the reasons for that in each of their respective episodes. I may have to take a break here at some point and suck on a Ricola for a little bit. So, the movie that I'm going to talk about today is called Handgun, directed by Tony Garnett and released in 1984.
So there we go with the up, round, flip it over and around, get a flat spin, put a triple up in the air, bring it up and then shoot it up, over and around, and catch it under the leg, over the shoulder, and fire it up, around, and make it flip up in the air, back down in your hand. Work it over here, stretching. Sometimes you get a flat spin to where it'll jump up in the air and work it over and back into it. Ladies and gentlemen, there ain't no place like Texas. And there's what it's all about there.
It is a movie that I hadn't heard of until listening to this episode of 80s All Over. It's not in any of my film books that I've had since the mid to late 80s. It's a movie that slipped completely under the radar, and there are a couple reasons for that, and I'll get to those in a second. But it's a movie that confronts toxic masculinity, which used to be known as machismo.
Old movie stars.
Well, that's easy. John Wayne.
What?
At least he was a real man. I mean, better than the faggots you see in the movies these days.
Xenophobia and racism.
Every black and Mexican in this city is going to start rioting.
Gun culture and gun fetishization.
You can't possibly begin to understand history down here unless you know something about Colt revolvers.
Rape and sexual assault.
They start out by ridiculing you, a girl who's been scorned after a one-night stand.
And unfortunately, all of these things are in the news constantly still today. The fact that the movie came out in 1984 is kind of mind-boggling. As I sat and watched this, so much of what the main characters and a lot of the background characters said is stuff that gets tossed around these days and gets called out for signal boosting, and on the other hand, it gets called out for being politically incorrect. It was amazing to me, even though I know this in the back of my mind, how little has changed in 35 plus years. The movie was made in 1981. The copyright said 1982, but it wasn't released in America until January of 1984. And I actually wanted to go ahead and play a little bit of the January 1984 episode of 80s All Over where they discuss this. This is Drew McWeeny and Scott Weinberg.
The movie never had a shot because Warner Brothers bought it and killed it because of Sudden Impact. This movie died so that Sudden Impact, Warner's giant rape revenge action Clint Eastwood movie, could dominate the December box office. This movie was owned by Warner Brothers. The reason you don't know about it is because Warner doesn't know they own it. Warner has no idea this exists. They bought it to eat it and digest it and never let you see it. So, yeah, I feel like this is a movie that would play right now in the Me Too era like a brand new film. I think it's hyper modern in a lot of ways. The way it's directed and the sensibility the director brings to it, it is more progressive in a lot of ways than films that are being made right now.
Yeah, and I can only imagine that he was both fascinated and horrified by American gun culture and is really baffled by it.
The movie stars Karen Young, who I'm familiar with from numerous episodes of Law & Order and its spin-offs. She worked steadily and still does. I think her last credit is 2012. In movies, TV, she was on The Sopranos, which I never got into, but if you are a fan of the show, you'll probably recognize her from that. And she plays Kathleen Sullivan, a young teacher from Boston, born to immigrant parents from Ireland, and I don't think it's said explicitly in the movie, but it appears that this is her first teaching job out of college. So she is an Irish Catholic New Englander who is right smack deep in the heart of Texas for her first job. She meets Larry at a barbecue that one of her coworkers is throwing at her house. He likes her instantly. She's coming off of a bad relationship and is not interested in getting involved with anyone.
He doesn't want to get involved. Who said he wants to get involved? You know what he wants.
Well, he's going to be disappointed.
Larry gives her a little history lesson. She's a history teacher. Got a little bit of mansplaining here. Gives her a history lesson about Texas and how it's still a frontier and how guns have basically created Texas.
You know what the Colt Single Action 45, 1873 was called?
I don't know anything about guns.
The Equalizer? The Peacemaker? The gun that won the West?
I never heard of it.
You can't possibly begin to understand history down here unless you know something about Colt revolvers.
She invites him to speak to her class about some of the antique guns that he has. He's happy to do so.
Because what it meant was that you had 5 shots right away. There was 5 Indians, right?
He pursues her aggressively.
I want to take you. Please. Are we going to refight the Civil War, Kathleen?
And she finally gives in and goes out on a date with him. When he drops her off, she does not invite him in, and he leaves in anger. Eventually, he invites her over because he has something special that he wants to share with her. He prepares a meal of venison from a deer that he shot earlier in the day. And of course, this ends very, very badly for Kathleen. It's a harrowing scene. I'm not going to discuss it in any detail. Again, it's not exploitive, but it is very disturbing. And the most disturbing part of it is how Larry behaves throughout and after.
I'm really sorry things got a little out of hand back there. But it's partly your own fault, you know, for being so irresistible. I guess I shouldn't have scared you like that. I'm sorry. You know, you should at least consider the possibility of maybe getting professional help. I mean, you're so repressed sexually. And there's no reason for that because you're a wonderful, warm, sensitive, sensual person, and you just kind of shut it off.
And of course, Kathleen gets no solace from the people that she seeks out for help. She does go to the police right away.
Some things that I need to find out if we're going to do anything to this guy. I'm going to have to ask you some questions, I'm afraid, but I'll try to make it as painless as I possibly can, all right?
She goes to the hospital right away. She talks to her priest, who is of no help whatsoever.
I want him punished.
That's up to God. That's up to God. That's not our role to punish people.
And she takes that turn into desexualization. She chops her long hair off.
Kathleen? Kathleen? When did you cut your hair?
Yesterday.
You okay? I'm fine. How are you? You had some bad news? No. Are your folks okay?
How are you, Jim?
I'm fine. Kathleen, it looks good.
She wears baggy dresses. She becomes quite irate at school with her students, where she was very pleasant before. And then she discovers that with no recourse through the justice system, with no recourse through her religion, she is going to have to rely on herself for vengeance. And this is kind of where it clicked in my head that it would be an interesting companion piece to Taxi Driver. And it's a kind of a compare and contrast situation between the two movies. In both, we have protagonists who are trying to get back or gain power over someone else. In Taxi Driver, there are perceived threats, and in Handgun, we have an obviously real threat to Kathleen. In Taxi Driver, Travis Bickle has to procure his weaponry from a sleazy black market dealer named Easy Andy. And in Handgun, all Kathleen has to do is walk into a gun store. She tells her trainer at the gun range,
Where can I get a gun?
You want a new gun?
And about 5 minutes later, she's getting shown all these different models from the gun dealer.
Down here, as long as you live in the state, you can buy the weapon, no problem.
We're going to make a Texan out of it, though.
But I found it very interesting in Handgun, she prepares herself for this final confrontation in a perfectly legal and a perfectly acceptable way in this culture. She starts taking lessons at the gun club that Larry belongs to.
Kathleen, are you trying to kill someone out here today? Remember what I told you. Keep the gun pointed downrange at all times. Don't ever point it at anything you don't want to kill.
Hey, Larry, do you know what?
And becomes quite proficient in handling weapons. There's a scene with her practicing in her home, which, again, kind of paralleled in my head with Taxi Driver and the famous mirror scene.
You talking to me?
And I found it interesting that the second time I watched, I noticed that in the background was a picture of John Lennon and Yoko Ono's album Double Fantasy, which is the last album he recorded and the one that had just come out, I think the day or the day before he was shot and killed by Mark David Chapman. And of course, the movie was made not long after the assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan, which was, of course, inspired in part by Taxi Driver. Kathleen does exact revenge on Larry.
Just give me a chance to explain, William.
No way to explain rape, Larry. A man's gotta do what a man's gotta do, isn't that it? I'd come out of there if I were you. You're a sitting duck.
And I will leave it at that, other than to say the end of the movie struck me as a little bit flippant in its tone compared with the, hour and a half that had preceded it. And you're left wondering, has this guy learned his lesson? And I think the answer is most likely a resounding no. This is something that he will, in fact, do again or attempt again. It may give him pause, but once an asshole, always an asshole, I guess.
Thinks a lot of himself.
Oh,
Oh, you know me, Chuck, always a gentleman. Give a lady a little time and she'll blossom like a flower.
The director has stated that this wasn't an indictment on gun culture in America, and particularly that of Texas, but it's hard to escape that, and I think his being British to a lot of foreign countries, that aspect of our culture is kind of mind-boggling. And that comes through in much of the dialogue throughout the movie, as well as the casual racism and sexism. So I wanted to do something a little bit different and kind of just play out with a smorgasbord of quips and quotes from the film that express these sentiments. It looks like it's gearing up to be the shortest episode of Wake Up Heavy ever. Part of that is due to my illness at the moment, and part is because I just wanted to touch on this really briefly in prep for the Taxi Driver episode and not repeat too much of what I found in this on that episode, because I do plan to bring it up. When I heard this discussion about this movie on 80s All Over, I thought, oh, you know what, there's no way I'm going to be able to track this down. And so I did my normal searching under the title Handgun and Deep in the Heart, and I discovered that it is available on Amazon Prime for free if you're a member. So get out and watch it. If you have issues with depictions of rape or sexual assault, then skip it. It is a fascinating and powerful film, though, so if it's something you think you can stomach, please give it a shot. That's sort of the point of this, is to expose other people that happen to listen to this, and not 80s All Over, to this movie. Okay, so I'm going to play out with clips. That's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, don't forget to wake up heavy.
In the last 10 years or so, there's been this tremendous buildup in government-supported welfare-type programs.
What do you think is going to happen when the federal government can't pay off welfare checks anymore?
And I think it's something that we in Texas have been really loath to accept, and we've kind of stayed away from.
Revolver, automatic. Wow, look kind of bounce.
I think it's wrong. I think it's contrary to the frontier spirit.
Every black and Mexican in this city is going to start rioting.
And what I want to know is, did something terrible happen to Kathleen?
She shot the friendly target. If I'm living in New York City, I ought to be on welfare. I'm going to make as much money as I would working.
Sound just like my father.
Ah, you must be a very fine man. I mean, obviously you couldn't be afraid of me, but it's just... They were all caused by people who weren't familiar with handguns, and that's you.
That old Indian chief knew it, and you should know it. As far as that man was concerned, we were all illegal aliens.
Ray, this is Kathleen. She's a new member of our club. She's looking to buy a gun.
As a nation, we're in love with guns.
You said that you screamed and struggled, but he lives in the middle of an apartment complex and nobody heard anything.
None of them were caused by somebody familiar with handguns, and that's me.
Yes, it's the Cadillac of the Colt revolver line, the Python.
Puncturing stroke would slash completely up the chest area and through the bone.
What happened the last day that you had?
Nothing out of the ordinary.
Now, wait a minute. Not your ordinary, out of her ordinary.
You admit that you were not a virgin before all this started.
And even now, we think that we can protect ourselves with guns.
Oh, yes, we have very liberal gun laws down here, and they don't seem to have caused any problems, Kathleen, so I don't see what the uproar is about trying to make them more strict. That gun's not going to commit any crimes.
God, guts, and guns have made our country strong. Now they're trying to take them all away. Yes, God, guts, and guns gonna keep our country strong. I hope I never live to see the day. Now tell me, Senator, what would you do if you came home tonight and found a burglar stole your stereo, killed your kids and raped your wife? Would you tell him that's a no, and slap him on the wrist and say that's not nice to do? Or grab your 12-gauge shotgun and blow him